I'm here with Jeff Jones from Chase Oaks Church in Plano, Texas. Welcome, Jeff.
Yeah, appreciate that. Good to see you.
Yeah, it's good. It's fun to be with you. We're looking forward to talking with you today a little bit about some of the exciting things that are going on at Chase Oaks. You and I have been talking over the last several months about some of the things that you're learning around being an externally focused church, and in particular, kind of what the difference between having that as a strategy and really allowing that to become a part of the culture, a part of who you are as a church. I'd love to hear a little bit more about that and how that's working there at Chase Oaks.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's right in the sweet spot of what we're learning. So I think, right now, externally focused over the last 5 or 6 years has been great in terms of mobilizing, various churches to engage their community. But I think in most cases, it's been kind of a strategy to adopt, almost a program to adopt. And an external focus as a strategy, I think will run out of steam at some point because it's demanding and difficult, and the more you get into issues of compassion, the more complex it gets. And so I think it's gonna be really interesting to see where we're at in that 5 years from now, because I think for those churches that it's been more of a strategy than really part of an essential core part of the way they think and the way they are. My guess is they'll be on to something else. Not that they won't be engaged at all in the community, but
yeah. How do you see? Give me an example of how you see it. Seeing it being a part of the culture at Chase Oaks as opposed to just being a programmatic, strategic kind of thing. How does it embody itself there at Chase Oaks?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I really think, I think culture change takes about 7 years to happen in the church. And therefore, to just adopt an external, to start saying, hey, we're just going to start serving our community, engaging. That's good. I mean, that's great. But culture shift, changing the way our leaders think and the way we think, what we think of as ministry success, meaning not just, so the difference between saying ministry success is not what's happening in my church, but what's happening in my community because of my church. And thinking that way budget-wise, thinking that way staffing-wise, thinking, it's just a very different animal. So so for us, I'm thankful that back, as God was stirring this in our heart 8 or 9 years ago, it started as we as elders just saying, we're not ready to talk to the church about this yet. I mean, yeah, I could do a sermon about it, get people excited, but we don't even know what this means yet. And our hearts aren't broken yet. And so we started, for about 3 years, it was just an elder discussion. That's what we read about. That's what we prayed about. We changed our own engagements to make sure that we were engaged in real issues in the community and real needs, and that our schedules became, rather than whatever else we were involved in, that we actually had time to engage and had our own stories to tell. Our own hearts were broken. Our own, And I'm very thankful. Usually I don't have that kind of discipline. Usually I start talking about it as if it's already happened and it's not even real yet. And I'm glad on that one we waited. And so because of that, we were able to lead out of our own journey and out of our own story, and kind of the same journey that we had to go through. Our church then had to go through of changing the way we allocate our money and our time, and changing the way we think, changing the way we view people, so that as we've called our church to it, I think it's a more real, authentic conversation. And once it becomes part of just the way a church thinks, it becomes sort of organic. Then it doesn't even have to be a program. It doesn't take a lot of effort anymore. It starts that way. It starts with a lot of effort and a lot of structure and but now it's kind of taken on a life of its own. It has its own momentum. We couldn't stop it if we wanted to. We still have to envision it, talk about it, keep the cultural value up, but at this point, kind of the tipping point happened some years ago in our life, in our small groups, for example, and then you attract people who share that cultural value to your church and that take you even further. And so, I'm thankful I think it's one of those areas it's better to move slow on the front end so that then it can balloon on the back end, as opposed to trying the balloon on the front end. That's, I think, just going to pop.
Yeah, that's really insightful. And I think important. If you were to think about one other piece of advice, I've heard you say start slow, make sure it's real with your leadership before you even cast vision for the church, so that then the church comes along and has their own story. Any other word of advice you'd give to leaders as they were trying to make that transition to become more externally focused and really allow that to be a part of who they are?
Yeah, I think the main thing, and maybe this is part of starting small, but I think you have to do the hard work of doing your own journey first before you can ask the church to go there. And I think without that, you won't even I just think it's too hard to anticipate where the rub's going to be, because if it's just a strategy, I think it really becomes a different way to think as a church, a different way to evaluate, a different way to budget, a different way to, you're going to run into issues that will be really demanding. And I think if you've already gone through your own journey of dealing with compassion and then justice issues and changing, I think you can authentically lead then. Without that, I think it'll stall out.
Very good. Thanks, Jeff. I really appreciate an opportunity to be with you today. And you've been with Jeff Jones from Chase Oaks Church on Conversations on Church Innovation. We'll see you next time.